I live with my family on a farm on the outskirts of a Navajo reservation. It's just me, my younger brother, my mom, and my dad. Our property mainly consists of the house, a small barn, and 2 pens, all surrounded by forest. 1 pen for our many chickens, and the other for our 14 sheep. The singular event that I'm about to describe has made us seriously consider moving and selling the place. If it ever happens again, you can be certain our family will no longer live there. It happened on a windy fall night in 2019. My dad and I had finished putting the sheep in the barn, and he told me to wake him if I heard coyotes, since we had recently been hearing them more frequently at night. This was so that, if they got near the barn, Dad could chase them off. Side note, I always hated the noises they made, not necessarily the howling, but the terrible yelping and scream-like utterances always gave me a chill down my spine. I didn't even know they could make any other noise besides a howl until this pack started bothering us. I could only imagine what was happening out there in the darkness of the night. Did they get to one of our livestock or some other prey? Were they fighting amongst themselves? I don't know, but whatever it was, the sight couldn't have been pretty. Anyways, this one night was strange. It began the same, with the choir of the night howling away, and it even devolved into the awful screeching, but then I heard them all suddenly start growling. They were definitely near the barn tonight, so I was preparing to go wake up my heavy sleeping father. It was difficult to hear due to the low pitch, so I got closer to my window. These growls seemed defensive, but what was it that would threaten a pack of wolves? The growling became more intense, and suddenly a loud yelp of pain echoed from the field. "You ready, kid?" my dad said as he emerged in my doorway. He had startled me, but I guess the coyotes had been extra loud that night. He had his shotgun with a dim light taped to it, and he gave me the big flashlight. As we made our way down the stairs to the main floor of our house, we heard an unmistakable sound, the creak of the barn door opening. "Didn't I tell you to lock that door?" he said irritably. "I did," I replied. "I'm sure of it?" He didn't say another word as we made it out of the house. Once we could see the barn, the sounds of the coyotes were now gone, and we watched as they ran away towards the tree line. They were not running away from us, however, but they were headed in the opposite direction of the barn. We could now hear the bleating of the sheep from the open barn door, which prompted my father to change his gait to a jog. I reluctantly followed. Our sheep were very upset. They were all running around in distress, making quite a noise, and they seemed completely oblivious to our presence. I shined my light around the interior, trying to determine what had upset them. Then we heard laughter. It was the laughter of a man. Its sound pierced through the chaos of our sheep, and sent a chill down my spine. My dad pumped his shotgun and shouted, "Whoever's in here, I'd show yourself if you want to live." The laughing grew louder, this time silencing the sheep as they all huddled in one of the back corners of the barn, away from the source. The laughing then suddenly stopped, plunging us into complete silence. I swear even the crickets had quit making their noises. The silence remained, despite the fact I was expecting my dad to threaten our mysterious visitor again, but he said nothing. Out from behind a hay bale came a single coyote, but this thing was all wrong. It must have been sick, because it wasn't walking properly. It was as if it had lost its motor function, and it was walking almost like a newborn would, a being adjusting to its own body. My dad rarely swore around me, but in the rare and extraordinary situation, I would sometimes hear him mutter something. "Holy fuck," he stammered. "Its eyes." I looked closely at them, as I had not yet paid attention to their detail. The creature, which I no longer considered to be a coyote at this point, had small irises with large whites surrounding them, definitely not that of a canine. They were human eyes. My dad aimed down the sights at it, but before he shot, an immensely overwhelming shriek emanated throughout the barn. My dad and I both frantically covered our ears. The creature then bolted, and I'm not sure how, considering how uncoordinated it appeared. It awkwardly ran past us at an astonishing speed. My dad turned and tried to shoot, but it was now already out of range somehow. We watched in silence as it continued to dash towards the tree line in its highly irregular cadence. Upon reaching the trees, the thing slowed to a stop. It was now at least 500 feet away. It turned around to look at us, almost in a mocking way it seemed, but then it did perhaps the strangest thing of all. The creature, which still looked exactly like a coyote besides its eyes, stood up on its hind legs. Its back posture was now like that of a man, just like its eyes. After that, it simply turned and walked into the forest. Luckily, we only lost one sheep that night, and we haven't seen the thing since, although my dad and I will never be able to comfortably turn our backs to that tree line again. Sometimes, at night, I can almost convince myself that I hear a laugh, or see the outline of a creature in the forest standing upright, looking right at my window.
This blue eye perceives all things conjoined, the past, the future, and the present. Everything flows, and all is connected. This eye